Aloha, this is Anna Surfing. Welcome to Beach Broadcast. Today is Saturday, September 6th, 2025. I was trying to do a podcast on the day of the hearing, and I was so, ugh. And then yesterday there was so much that was dropping, and I was just going dizzy. So I'm going to go ahead and cover as much as I can today in this podcast. So get yourself nice and comfy on this Saturday. And thanks so much for joining us on sanasurfing.locals.com as well as on x.com. We do feature ad-free videos on both of those subscriptions. And if you ever want to know where I'm at, you can always find me here. Now, I am doing daily shows on YouTube. I was doing daily shows on Rumble. I'm still having some difficulty. And if you check out the YouTube channel, I will have an announcement on there about where all my videos will be. So just go ahead and listen to the YouTube channel, and you can click on the link below. So here's my announcement that's strictly announced on the YouTube channel. I am going to be posting my daily shows on YouTube, and I will be slowly phasing out of Rumble. And I will be having maybe 1 to 2 videos. I thought I was going to have more, but I just really don't appreciate how I'm being treated, and just some of the different things that they have done, and I really just don't appreciate it. And I've had technical difficulties and difficulties. So please join me on YouTube, and I will be having daily shows there, but on Rumble for the next 4 to 6 weeks, I will be doing 1 to 2 videos. I'll still keep my Rumble channel up as a library. However, all my videos will be, going forward, will be posted on YouTube. Man, I'll tell you, the last 2 days was a little explosive. So we have Bobby Kennedy. He had his hearing. I know it's a movie plot. I know things have to play out, but I was so upset hearing these dingbat, dirty Democrat senators, and then just watching the rhinos, just sitting there watching Bobby Kennedy get berated, and I keep thinking, what was the purpose of this entire hearing? Ultimately, it was for them to go ahead and have their screaming match, because I'm wondering if this is their last ditch effort to do whatever they need to do to try to destroy what President Trump's working so hard to accomplish. Oh my gosh, the things that President Trump is doing, saving the children in a big way, saving our health, saving our lives, saving humanity. It's incredible. So I'll cover as much as I can today. So Robert Kennedy, I will call it his 5D chess. On Thursday, when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, I was just so upset. And I said, dear Lord, just help me understand. Just help me see the bigger picture. And then all of a sudden, poof, voila, God gave me a little direction here. So Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, I'm just going to show a couple of clips, less than 20 seconds, so you don't have to hear them screaming, guys. But this entire hearing, it sounded like it was a pay-for-play for Democrats / Big Pharma versus Robert Kennedy. Now, he's trying to do the best that he can to make our world, our lives healthier, and they are ripping into him. So we know that this is theater, but it was really disturbing to see how they treated him, the very, very man that's working so hard to make our world a better and happier and healthier place. Listen to these clips that from Elizabeth Warren and how she gets called out for getting paid $855,000 from Big Pharma, and listen to what Bernie Sanders pretty much calling out everybody for taking money from Big Pharma.
When you said,
and I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you or the ones?
Every Republican got corporate PAC money for the pharmaceutical industry.
And I'll tell you, Bernie Sanders, he just caved. He's like, I'm not going to go anywhere. And then, of course, Elizabeth Warren, she was just on a freaking tear. We know that these body doubles or clones or whatever, they have to play their part, and the real ones already got dealt with, but these people are pure evil, period. Just pure evil. And when Elizabeth Warren was ripping and berating Bobby Kennedy, I thought, why isn't somebody interrupting her and say, because she was asking a question, didn't want to hear his answer, didn't like his answer, and kept going on and on and on. Well, let me go ahead and enlighten you on a little bit more on Elizabeth Warren and these dirty people. So Bobby Kennedy pretty much called out Elizabeth Warren for taking in $855,000. Bobby Kennedy did call out Bernie Sanders back in January when he was going through his confirmation hearings for taking money from Big Pharma as well. Well, this is from Open Secrets. You can click on here and it will take you to the actual page. I'm just going to show you this right here, kind of giving you an idea. There are many, 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 many pages of Congress people that got paid by Big Pharma. Bernie Sanders received almost $2 million, $1.949 million. Chuck Schumer, again, $1.5 million. They even have no name in here. And then there's Elizabeth Warren. Her updated amount is $1.22 million. Now, they are being the biggest hypocrites by going out there and trying to defend the big pharma. Again, aren't they looking for answers? No, they're looking for answers they want to hear to get their sound bites for their election period, right? Well, I don't think that's going to happen. So this is actually a little thread on the hypocrites from the people on the left. So I just wrote, I a little too ticked off to record a podcast today and how they were just, it was just awful. So the dirty senators, so I just put a thread together, these sick, dirty senators, they took thousands, if not millions of dollars from the modern day drug dealers, I will call them, they need to get locked up here. In their position of power, they pushed and promoted the big pharma death vax. I'm going to call it that. You decide. It's my opinion, but you decide. Here we have Elizabeth Warren back in 2020, and they're taking these salines or placebos. It's not the real vaccine. When Obamacare came out, for an example, they told Obama says you have to have medical insurance, you have to have this. And did Congress even opt to take that kind of Obamacare lousy plans? No. So they're the biggest hypocrites. So here you got Elizabeth Warren promoting the vax. You got Bernie Sanders. He is saying the vaccines are safe and effective. I'm not going to play the clip. You can go ahead and play it if you'd like. Let me say it again. Vaccines are safe and effective. Well, no, you know what? You need to do a little bit more homework because that's not the case. COVID was a horrific scam. The vaccine that followed was the biggest tyrannical crime against humanity scandal ever. The influence from Congress and the idiot Biden got many people to take the vaccine that ultimately it affected their lives, their everything that was going on. The dirty media pushed it as well. So you have clips here about the media pushing the vaccine. Now, the unvaccinated, we were mocked, we were ridiculed, we were shunned. This is a post by Tara RSU, Temi RSU. We were just prohibited from doing many things. And what he wrote is both the vaccinated people that were deceived and the unvaccinated people they censored and ridiculed are eagerly waiting to see this come to fruition, which is the arrest of this horrible rat Fauci. We really do want to see that. So Fauci and Birx lied. Birx, Dr. Scarf Lady, she changed the data on the CDC records because she can. And she said, I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infections, and I think we overplayed the vaccines. Check this out.
Well, if you're across the South and you're in the middle of this wave, what's going to save you right now is Paxlovid. But once we get through this wave, during that lull, you should get vaccinated and boosted because we do believe it will protect you, particularly if you're over 70. I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, and I think we overplayed the vaccines, and it made people then worry that it's not going to protect against severe disease and hospitalization.
She is evil, pure evil. Now I'm going to just show you some. Here's the article to that link where she admits that she manipulated data and altered the CDC guidelines. They are not the same person. I don't know if you remember where I believe President Trump just probably put a little ankle bracelet on her, and she had to sit in front of the Rose Garden in the audience, and she sat there listening to President Trump, and she was sitting there, she was hunched over. Do you remember that? I can't find it, by the way, but she was hunched over, she was sitting there in total shame, and President Trump made sure that the cameras were showing her sitting there in total shame. So we know she got dealt with, got Gitmoed or whatever happened to her. These crimes against humanity are awful. Now, Fauci, he made up the COVID rules as time went along. Again, I went through a COVID podcast last week, so kind of just giving a little refresher here, but there's a little bit more involved. Fauci, he confessed that he made up the COVID rules, including 6 feet social distancing. And they at the CDC, they were actually on the phone making up stuff. And there was even another person that she's talking about. Yeah, we just got on the phone. We were making up stuff saying, yeah, that sounds good. They're just evil, guys. Just, horrible. That hearing was the good versus evil. Good meaning Bobby Kennedy, evil meaning the senators in Congress. I really just have lost a lot of respect for Congress. They haven't done anything. Justice-wise, nothing. Nada, zippo. They were like, we're going to file this, and we did this, and we did that, and we're going to do this. And it's like, yeah, whatever. Where is the result? I know they might have it down the road, but there has been the old Zippo for years. Biden mandated the vaccine, mandated it, right? He mandated a bioweapon, I will just say that. And he even would fine businesses $14,000 if their employees weren't vaccinated, and that's for each count. And so he mandated a bioweapon. Over here, this is an article by The Hill. Some federal employees, as well as employees working for the federal contractors, will also be subject to the rule. Businesses that fail to impose the new rules on their workers will be fined $14,000 per violation, as per OSHA. That was under Biden. Again, it was tyrannical. Hospitals were paid a bonus. You all knew this. We all talked about it back in 2020. They were paid a bonus of $13,000 for each COVID patient admitted. So that you come in there with an ankle problem, they're going to say, okay, you've got COVID. And then they fix the ankle problem, and then that's it. But if you had something that they might say, hey, you need to stay in the hospital a little longer. And the hospitals were also paid $39,000 for each COVID patient that was put on a ventilator. Unfortunately, 80% of those that were put on a ventilator passed. These are a couple of articles that you can go ahead and read. Now, Hawaii, and this is just an example, but how it was just like, just horrible. Hawaii was, and it still is horrific. They arrested tourists that violated stupid COVID quarantine, their law, they call it. If you ask them that, and I've even asked them, like they're on their ATVs riding on the beach, and it's like, you put your mask on. You're in the parking lot just looking at the ocean. You can't walk on the sand, otherwise you're going to go ahead and get a citation. But they were out there, and I'm like, what law? What's the law? You don't ever ask us that question. I'm thinking, what a bunch of jerks. All right. But anyway, Hawaii cracks down. This is an article from Daily Mail. They have sealed off its borders from tourists to stop the spread of coronavirus. There was a quarantine. So if you came out here, you plan to go out to, not here, but to Maui or Hawaii, you plan to going out to Hawaii, and you plan the trip for maybe a year or two, because it's expensive to go out to Hawaii and spend money out there as well. Just to plan the trip. So you plan it, and then all of a sudden COVID hits, and then all of a sudden you have to stay in your hotel room for 10 days. Most people don't stay that long in your hotel room for 10 full days, right? So they were getting arrested. They were getting fined. Look at this. Anyone convicted of violating rules faced a $5,000 fine and a year in jail, or both. They literally were catching people on the beach, taking pictures, going out jet skiing, or whatever. You can go in the ocean. That was completely legal, but you couldn't walk on the sand to get into the ocean. Did you know that the cops, these are the same cops that locked people into Lahaina, I guess, or the same the same unit. They were at a beach park where surfers typically go, locals go, and they go surfing. And they were waiting at the beach park, and as soon as the surfers were done walking across the sand, because they got the surfboard that's across the sand to get into the parking lot to go in their cars, they were giving citations out at that time. That was just evil. It was just horrible. Okay, the side effects of the evil vaccine, it's horrible. It's very, very heartbreaking. I do have a silver lining to this, guy, so hang in there with me. But we all know it caused myocarditis, strokes, heart problems, seizures, a lot more other really heartbreaking things. In 2024, AstraZeneca finally admits for the first time its COVID vaccine can cause rare side effects in intense legal fight with victims of defective jab. So did Congress even bring this up in the hearings? No, they didn't, not at all. In July of 2025, Daily Mail received the revealed that the first COVID vaccine was linked to eye damage. And they're encouraging anybody that has a reaction to eye damage to reach out to them. There's an address, email address right there. So they're encouraging it, and it leads to eye damage, guys. I mean, how many of, oh gosh, it's so horrible. They wanted everything they do to cripple us. If they couldn't kill us, they wanted to cripple us to make our lives miserable so that we would be dependent on the big pharma and their horrible drugs. President Trump at a Space Command presser on the 2nd of September, just this past Monday, he talked about Ursula von der Leyen. Now remember, in my podcast about COVID, Ursula is mentioned in court documents, and that was reported by Jim Ferguson, UK. Jim Ferguson was in the courtroom in the Netherlands, and she was mentioned in the court documents. Here it is. I'll just go ahead and play this right here. She was mentioned in the court documents along with Bill Gates, Albert Bourla, Klaus Schwab, and Mark Rutte. They're all named and accused of conspiracy, bioterrorism, and crimes against humanity. Stay with me, guys, because on that presser, so I just kind of wanted to give you a refresher that's what happened. But on the presser that President Trump had when he was talking about the Space Command Center moving over to Huntsville, Alabama, what he said here, I don't think a lot of people caught it, and I didn't play it on my YouTube channel, and I was like, oh man, so I'm going to play it now. He said this, and he was talking, a reporter asked about Ursula, and this is what his answer was.
The satellite signal of Ursula von der Leyen's plane was alleged.
With Ursula? Well, she had an interesting event. She's a tremendous woman. And so what are you asking me about her?
NATO is concerned about it.
Sure, NATO is concerned about it. Well, nobody knows where it came from, but they did take away her ability to use a phone. You know? Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that could happen to me. I'd be very happy.
Oh my gosh. President Trump, again, he says the most important big bomb drops under his breath on an oh, by the way statement. They took her ability they did take away her ability to use her phone. Again, is she in cell block C? Is she already dealt with? Is she sitting there waiting for her trial? That's the big part, and that's what President Trump is trying to bring across. He knows we're smart enough where we dissect things to a T to try to figure this out, and it's like, oh my gosh. So if she can't use a phone, well, they don't have little phone booths inside their cell block C's at wherever she's at. Again, just my opinion, you decide. So here comes the silver lining, okay? President Trump, he held an X space on August of 2024. And in this particular X space, he discussed many things, but particularly these topics. He says, I got Therapeutics approved. Trump again says, I got Right to Try, which was one of his initiatives that he rolled out in his first term, which is for the terminally ill. And he mentioned space age technology. We're saving tens of thousands of lives. Now, what was really awesome about this is that he even mentioned in here, in one of his rally clips from last year, listen to what he says about somebody in the audience and about Right to Try.
I mean, we have a person in this room who was saved by Right to Try. We're a space-age drug. They're doing things, but it takes a long time to get them approved, or they cut it in half. I cut that time.
Space age, and I couldn't understand what he was saying after that, but it's a space-age technology, something very highly sophisticated. They finally got it released. We know there's a lot of that hidden technology that the dirty governments prior to President Trump coming into the public eye president, and also back in his first term, they have hid from you and me from trying to make our world, our lives a better place, it could have at that time, and what Trump and Elon and his entire administration is doing is they're getting all of that out now. So the Right to Try is, remember where President Trump hugged a little kid when he was in the Oval Office? That was his announcement on Right to Try. These are people that have terminally ill diseases or situations, and they signed something that said, I'm willing to try it. Well, I'm wondering, is that highly sophisticated. You know what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to, once President Trump talks about it, I'll start to talk about it. But many of you already can read in between the lines of where I'm going. Therapeutics is a cure. It will cure you and you're done. Treating a illness, the big pharma needs you to be sick because that feeds their pocketbook. So what Trump is doing is he's saying, I want you to be a healthy world. So let's get this going. And then here we have Elon Musk. He's talking about Neuralink, and it's just the beginning of helping people with neurological disorders. And he has a solution. What he says in here is Neuralink will help restoring functionality to people who have lost the connection between their brain and the body. And then he said it will also help in restoration of eyesight. Check this out.
And the initial devices will really just be pretty basic. It'll be about restoring functionality to people who've lost their connection between their brain and their body. So you can imagine, like, if, say, Stephen Hawking could talk or communicate as fast as somebody with a fully functioning body. That would be amazing. So that's like what we're trying to do. That's our first application, is to restore functionality to quadriplegics, tetraplegics, and people who've just, for whatever reason, no longer have a connection between, or a limited connection between their brain and their body. And then the second application would be restoration of eyesight. So if somebody's gone completely blind, maybe even has lost the optic nerve, you can actually still directly stimulate the neurons in the visual part of the cortex. So you can give a direct vision to the brain.
Isn't that remarkable? I mean, come on, we've never ever, who would have ever known, who would have ever thought we would have this out in our lifetime, this kind of technology out and it does help with in a podcast I did with, under the playlist of Elon's technology. It does, and it's the endless frontier. This is part of it where it can help with those with autism, and it can help with those that have in the early stages of Alzheimer's. So imagine what our world would be like. Can you imagine somebody that's partially blind, how it's going to help them to see, and the life just the world that they're going to see is going to be incredible. So we know that Elon's going to have to. He's rolling these things out, and he's moving at lightning speed to get these things done for us. I believe, in my humble opinion, it's already ready. It's just at the right time, when the right time. Excuse me, I'm a little illiterate this morning. It's when it's at the right time. Now, another silver lining: the Executive Order 13818, blocking the properties of persons involved in serious human abuse, human rights abuse or corruption, that got extended until, guess when? The end of this year. Now, it might get another extension, but it did get extended until the end of this year. So this is a worldwide executive order. Think about that. A worldwide executive order giving President Trump the rights to seize properties of those involved in serious human abuse crimes. Again, President Trump has been all about the children, all about helping humanity. And in this podcast, you're going to hear a little bit more because it's really wonderful what he's been doing. So here's the extension. Now, the difficult truths. It's going to be hard for us to have to relive some of these moments, but I know many of you are very strong. And this is Q4908. Actually, it's kind of interesting. It's next month, Delta, October 21st. Sometimes you can't tell the public their truth. You must show them. Only then will people find the will to change, right? Crimes against children, unite all humanity, cross party lines, difficult truths, Q. This is all what President Trump, what was revealed late yesterday, is going to be incredibly big. So remember back in Davos of 2023, we watched Rebel News going out there on the streets, questioning Albert Bourla. I am good. Let me just turn this off. I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of give you a summation. It looks like Albert Bourla was doing his walk of shame. He is the CEO of Pfizer. His wife is the woman in the dark hair in the back and the red jacket. And this person right here, why is this person holding his arm? Is that person a handler, right? There are people that were handlers that were walking I believe they were walking Albert Bourla to do his walk of shame. Now, these are billionaire executives that could easily take their private transportation to go to the coffee shop or wherever they needed to go, but no. So this is incredible because what they're showing, I'm showing badges here. I highlighted some badges, but he didn't answer their question. They were drilling and grilling him about it's not working, the therapeutics don't work. These guys were fearless, and Albert Bourla literally was walking in complete shame, looking on the ground. So that's poetic justice right there, because we know that that has to happen. And that same there were other people that were doing the walk of shame as well, even John Kerry. So that was interesting. So you can check out this podcast that kind of covers some of those things, but God already won, and he is using Trump and you to help us get through to the finish line, that the glory and the greatness, no doubt. There's going to be a little bit more heartbreaking truths coming out, but keep your sights and promises on him, and he will get you through this. Now, so that was kind of summation of the things that happened on Thursday, the 4th, on the day that Bobby Kennedy had his hearing. And then no announcement made on this, but President Trump has his big tech dinner at the White House, and poor Melania, she had to sit next to the creep, Bill Gates. But you have Mark Zuckerberg and you have Bill Gates, and then I'll share more about who was there. Okay, but oh, I don't know how that got there. Okay. Oh, this should have been up front. I forgot to mention to you. Okay, so the list of senators that received money from, let me get to that in a moment. Okay, here we go. Now let's go back to the hearing. I just want to throw this out there. I want to thank Don Draven for bringing this to, just helping out with this. These are the list of the senators that received money from Merck. I'm specifically talking about Merck because there was something else that big that was just, you had to literally dig on Yandex to find this, the information I'm going to share with you in just a moment. But Don Draven shared all of these are people received money directly from Merck. And so here's the list of all of the senators, and then additional people are these people right here. So it covers both sides, guys, because we got dirty Democrats and dirty Republicans, right? So this is where the 5D chess comes into play, and it's pretty big. So Robert Kennedy, he played his 5D chess. Again, Thursday I didn't see it, but Friday morning I did. So he got his sound bites. Guess what? He was involved in a lawsuit before he got his nomination, before he actually joined Trump. He was already involved in lawsuits against Big Pharma, but specifically with Merck. Did you know that he started a lawsuit against Merck on the Gardasil vaccine? And the new trial, it's going to trial, guys. That's the big news, is set for for September, later this month. There's no specific date, but it is later this month. So the new trial with a new jury begins in September. Imagine any jury members that watched the hearing. They're going to say, wow, he was trying to share a lot of truth. Okay, but anyway, Bobby Kennedy is not in, there's different parties. He was working on behalf of victims that were affected by the Gardasil vaccine. The hearing or the screaming session was the Big Pharma paid senators versus Bobby Kennedy, right? The Merck lawsuit, it can open up a very, very big, huge Pandora's box. Here it is. So this kind of gives you can click on here and it kind of gives you a time frame of that lawsuit. Again, I really hope that this news can get out there because this is kind of big. The trial against Merck, Fortune magazine published a piece and saying that this was the very first U.S. trial against Merck Gardasil vaccine. So how big is this going to be, right? And then what about the other vaccines, right? The CDC and the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. So Kennedy had to get rid of 17 members of the CDC, the top They were the top level people. And then he had to terminate, now he's in the process, or he has already terminated 600 CDC employees. He needs clean data. He needs non-manipulated data, right? So did you know that Robert Kennedy is also overseeing the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program? Did fake news ever report this? Did they report about this upcoming trial? No. And no. Did they report that there's a compensation program? Did you know that they've already paid out $5.8 billion in this compensation program? If you are looking into this, just go ahead and click on that picture, and then it'll take you to this post, and click on this right here, and it will give you more information on how you can go ahead and get that form. Now, Democrats, they got millions from Big Pharma. I already shared all of that here, but the pushing the bioweapon is a crime against humanity. So these dirty Democrats and even the Rhino Republicans, they pushed for crimes against humanity and took money from the very companies that injected bioweapons into innocent life, right? Well, this is a little piece on the biological weapon. And it is a crime of using biological weapons against innocent lives is prohibited under federal law, which makes it a federal offense to knowingly develop, produce, stockpile, transfer, acquire, retain, or possess any biological agent, toxin, or delivery system for use as a weapon. Again, modern day crime and war that we had is this biological warfare. Interesting, because, well, I'll get to that in a moment. Okay. The penalties for violating this are severe, with a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. So that kind of gives you an idea of what these dirty people had to do. Now, President Trump. So right after Bobby Kennedy had his hearing, President Trump, he had his dinner. And were a lot of frustrated, not fake, but frustrated MAGAs out there. They were like, what is going on? In my opinion, the hearing was plan B, the lawsuit's plan C, but this was plan A. Now, who is Trump trolling? So let me just kind of giving you a little idea of what I see in this, how I see this. I know this is a long podcast because I'm covering 3 days worth, guys, or 2 days worth. Okay, so this was the White House Trump dinner. I'm going to call it the Trump trap dinner. Okay, let me start with this. This is a short version of a Q post. The longer version can be found right here. But Q1947, it was interesting. It's on August 28th, just last week, a week and a half ago, Delta. Google to be regulated. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, ? These people are stupid. Censorship with no consequences. How do you set a trap? Open the door and we shall always walk through and take control. Well, what did President Trump do? He opened the door at the White House to invite them over for dinner. That's how I look at it, guys. This is I was just like, oh my gosh, who was invited? Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google, Sergey Brin, who actually was formerly married to Robert Kennedy's running mate, Nicole Shanahan, and then his prior marriage was to Susan Wojcicki, founder of 23andMe, which is the DNA database. Okay, Tim Cook and Apple already worked out a deal, and then Elon Musk didn't need to be at the White House dinner because he already bought criminal evidence, which is Twitter, and he turned the company into X. Is X already regulated? So making a deal with Trump takes on a whole new meaning, right? So when somebody says they made a deal, what kind of deal did they really make, right? And it just gets bigger and better for us, guys, because President Trump then after the dinner, and then he was standing up for the big tech. Now, those of you that got nuked and suspended, which is a lot of you that's listening to the show, you probably think, oh, well, that's okay. They can go ahead and get sued. Not unless, hear me out on this, guys. Not unless is it owned by President Trump and our sovereign wealth fund and for we the people. President Trump, he posted this, and then I'll give you my commentary, but you can decide. Okay, Europe today hit another great American company, Google, with a $3.5 billion fine, effectively taking money that would otherwise go to American investments and jobs. This is on top of the many other fines and taxes that have been issued against Google and other tech companies in particular. Very unfair, Oh my gosh, this is where I just almost fainted. Very unfair. And the American taxpayer and the American, excuse me, I'm not drawing very well. Very unfair. Okay. And the American taxpayer will not stand for it. The American taxpayer will not stand for it. That is telling us a lot. And when he gave his presser yesterday announcing the Department of War, he was making it very clear during the presser. He was talking about it. This is not fair. So this is my thought on this. Tell me that we, the people, do not own Google or an Apple, et cetera, right? The American taxpayer will not stand for it. Tells us, is this a part of our sovereign wealth fund? A bunch of corporations? Remember President Trump back in 2020, he had the DPA, the Defense Production Act, which gave Trump ginormous powers to take over companies if need be. And it is huge. So again, looking at things that way, it's very big. You decide. But why would he be concerned about the American taxpayer when, let's say, another company that's getting sued, he's not fighting for them, right? Maybe a small business that's getting sued, he's not fighting for them like he's fighting for these big companies. So I'm telling you, all these deals with all these businesses, do we own them? President Trump through Il Donato, this is an AI generated version, but he, you know how he is. There are certain messages, hidden messages that he has when he's trying to bring out a point. But he made this about Bill Gates. Check this out.
Well, I just wanted to apologize for every single version of Windows that sucked, which is basically all of them. Also, sorry for creating viruses just so I could profit from selling you the antivirus software. And on that note, sorry for spreading real viruses by profiting from vaccines. Also, sorry for sterilizing so many of you. There's just too many of us, and some of you are not nice. That's why I'm trying to block out the sun. Anyway, I just came here to ask for a pardon from all the Epstein shit. Thank you.
I had to block out some words, but he says, I'm asking for a pardon from all the Epstein blank or bleep. All right, so this is, okay, then it leads to this. Okay, so you know President Trump, he already knows, we know that a lot of stuff. We know we did a lot of digging. He appreciates what you've done all these years. Now listen to this. I'll tell you, he was working on this plan for decades to become the president. He has been working on trying to save innocent lives and the children. Listen to what Mike Johnson said yesterday when he was talking to one of the reporters, and then I added a couple of clips. He had mentioned that President Trump, under his breath, again, Mike Johnson saying this under his breath, President Trump was an FBI informant. Check this.
He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this as recently as 24 hours ago. And he's not saying that.
The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009. I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that, he didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me. He got on the phone. He told me things that were helping our investigation. Now, our investigation wasn't looking into him, but he was helping us then.
That's our president. Is this President Trump? He's fighting for the children, the innocent lives, all of these women right here that are ready to go ahead and reveal the names of the Epstein list because Congress didn't do it, won't do it, and DOJ hasn't done it. So are they going to do that? And they're making it very clear Trump has been nothing but helpful. And Vincent Kennedy, he wrote, this info is so 2016. Again, remember Vincent Kennedy, he's a very, very unique, beautiful person. But he wrote, Speaker of the House announces Trump was an FBI informant tasked with taking down Epstein. Not OpQ had said, now I know what Dan Scavino meant when he said Donald Trump breaking the internet. This is what Dan Scavino posted. POTUS may break the internet shortly, and that was on September 3rd. Okay, so no, come on, guys. This is getting kind of interesting and very big, and now we understand why there was the dinner. It was at the trap. Were they getting processed? Were they going through a biometrics scanning to find out what clone they are? The dirty people that attended the dinner. We know we're going to be facing something very big. President Trump had an announcement last night where he talked about, he had mentioned that it would be war, the Department of War. So again, changing the name to the Department of War at the same time where we're going to be seeing a lot of stuff. We know we have to get ourselves ready. So here's a photo of Pete Hegseth's new sign that says Secretary of War. How cool is that, right? So we have a lot of big things in the works, a lot of things that's rolling, and we're going to start to see all the hard work that you've done starting to pay off. But again, the swamp has to be dealt with, and then at the same time, we'll be having our greatness rolling out, and it's going to be just absolutely glorious. God bless you so much. Thanks so much for listening to this long podcast. I appreciate it. Please share this with your friends and family. Again, stay with me on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube so you can get notifications, please, because I am going to be ultimately parting ways with Rumble so that I can go to YouTube. So have yourselves a wonderful, beautiful day and afternoon and weekend, and I will have a show very soon. Aloha.